In 1924, the pictorial photo album on Asia was published in Japan. From 1924 to 1932, it published over 1,000 pictures about China, including its towns, villages, people, folk customs, various industries, and so on. The number of pictures documenting China's 3 northeastern provinces was the largest.
非常的清楚，都不是那种像一般的那种旅游者啊拍的很随意的，而且他的照片中有很多的都是交通的要义的要冲，是吧？标志性的地标性的建筑，
涉及的地域范围是非常非常广的。照片的形式是一张黑色的卡纸，固定尺寸的卡纸，然后上面贴一张照片，照片旁边是一个日文的说明的纸条，还有个英文版本，就是这个说明是英文版的，发行到欧洲国家。
日本当时并不是一个像西方那么富裕的国家，什么人能够拿着照相机这么全国自由自在的游荡？他怎么会有那么大把的时间？谁来给提？而且照相仍然在那个时代是很昂贵的一件事情。所以你把所有的这些不解的东西都搁在一起，我觉得实际上一个答案呢，它就慢慢的就浮现出来了。间谍行为。
These pictures were taken by a Japanese man by the name of Shimazaki. He had worked at the South Manchuria Railway Company, but later he became known as a professional cameraman with the ATO Photographic Association. What motivated him to take these pictures?
我觉得从留存的这些照片和文字来看，并不能片面的就把这种东西划分为间谍行为，因为摄影师他自己他会把自己的这个旅行见闻都记录下来，能看得出他对他所去的那个地方都是充满着热爱的，比方风景会很好，比如说当地的百姓会比较友善，因为那个时候中日还没有发生冲突。
这些影像被中国人现在称为间谍影像，所以他为他们日本人侵华做准备。但是也有一个学者说，他实际上这些照片呢，实际上是回到日本去，吊起了日本人对中国的一种兴趣，为他们后来进入中国创造一些舆论。
In fact, Japan had arranged for photos to be taken in China in a planned and systemic way well before Shimazaki. In 1901, the East Asia Tongwon Academy was founded in Shanghai. The school focused on Chinese studies, and one of its strengths was arranging for Japanese students to conduct field surveys in China. In 1901, the East Asia Tongwon Academy was founded in Shanghai. The school focused on Chinese studies, and one of its strengths was arranging for Japanese students to conduct field surveys in China. From 1901 to 1945, more than 5,000 Japanese students from the academy made more than 700 study tours that covered every Chinese province except Tibet. They collected information about geology, industry, trade, society, the economy, politics, and more. Shimazaki's journey was an extension of the so-called field surveys initiated by the academy.
1900年前后，日本人出了一套摄影机，当时中国大概应该是分成18个省，一个省里面大概是有100张照片。
从他的一部分照片能有反应，因为从日本侵略中国，其实最重要的一个原因，不管他什么时期侵略中国，最重要的一个原因就是因为它的土地面积比较小，自然资源少，它必须要向外扩张。
1920年的时候，日本人又对中国进行大量的影像采集，特别重要的就是一个亚东映画机跟亚细亚映画机。你可以看到里面基本上的交通要道、基本上的制高点、基本上的交通工具，包括人的生活状态、人的生产工具、劳作方式，他们全部进行了全方位的记录。
September 18, 1931 saw the outbreak of the Mukden incident, and shortly after, Japan's army occupied 3 of China's northeastern provinces. The next year, the pictorial photo album on Asia ceased publication. July 7, 1937 is considered today to mark the beginning of China's war of resistance against Japanese aggression. Frederick Wakeman, an American professor of Chinese history, points out that Shanghai was the first metropolis destroyed in World War II. Evidence for this is found in the documentary Shanghai, which was filmed by the Japanese themselves. The documentary was funded by the Japanese military and filmed by Japanese director Fumio Kami after the Battle of Shanghai on August 13, 1937. Kami managed to get Japanese military officers of various ranks to recall before the camera how Japan achieved victory in the battle. During the narration sequence, the director shifted his camera lens to acres of city debris, refugee-ridden streets, and war-torn land where rows of white wooden gravestones were erected near new tombs. The Japanese names on the epitaphs prove that the price Japan paid for its victory was far higher than that claimed in Japanese newspapers. When Japanese troops entered Shanghai, they were met by clearly reluctant Shanghai citizens, none of whom wore smiles on their faces. The purpose of these scenes in the documentary was to show the friendship of the Japanese soldiers towards the locals. But it's clear the children were obviously puzzled by their actions. As the anti-invasion sentiment of the locals evident in the film was entirely contrary to the original intention of the Japanese military, the director was imprisoned. Fumio Kami, a conscientious intellectual, later recalled that he filmed what he wished to film. In 1938, propaganda featuring Japan's victories in China was rampant. Kami wished to do something different by filming the real ups and downs of life. While Kami was filming Shanghai, a number of leftist Europeans were passing through various places before arriving in China. Among them were the well-known war photographer Robert Capa and Dutch documentary director Joris Ivens. At that time, Shanghai and Nanjing had already fallen into the hands of the enemy, and Wuhan was now the center of the war of resistance. In Hong Kong, Capa and Ivens met with Chiang Kai-shek and Madame Chiang. Upon hearing the two foreigners wish to film a documentary about China's struggle, Madame Chiang was happy to work as an advisor.
实际上，中国人知道那些照片，但不知道作者是谁。比如说，我记得我从很小的时候去看一些，比如纪录片、电影啊，里面实际上大量的镜头，比如在这个1938年的武汉。 这周恩来，我们那个很亲切的剃着平头啊，在那谈笑风生啊，还有叶剑英啊，这些东西实际上都是卡片拍的。
Born in Budapest, Hungary in 1913, at middle school, Robert Capa studied political science. He was a communist sympathizer and as a result was blacklisted by the authorities and eventually driven out of the country. He began to develop a liking for photography in Berlin and fell in love with Gerda Taro, a woman he would cherish for the rest of his life. In 1936, Capa was sent by a media organization to help a colleague cover the Spanish Civil War, and it was while doing this that he met Ivens, American writer Ernest Hemingway, and Canadian surgeon Norman Bethune. He became friends with all of them. Capa's greatest achievement on the Spanish battlefield was a photo that came to be known as the Falling Soldier that earned him an international reputation. But in 1937, during the Spanish Civil War, the woman he loved, Gerda Taro, fell beneath the tracks of a tank and died of her injuries just a day later. She was just 26 years old. Her coffin was sent to Paris on July 30th, 1937. Kappa bowed his head and followed her coffin sorrowfully. He felt terribly guilty as he thought he'd failed to fulfill his duty to protect her. From that day onward, the heartbroken Kappa focused his lens on the brutal battlefield. He believed that a camera per se cannot prevent a war, but pictures taken by a camera can reveal the war and hold it back.
1937年的中国抗日战争开始了，他这个日本人在中国这场战争呢，一开始他就显露出了全套的这种所谓现代型战争的特点，坦克、飞机，他的航空力量一直在轰炸，这都是很厉害的。所以当时说法西斯战争呢，更惨烈的这场战争呢，实际上在东方开始了。这样呢，就是卡帕呢，就伊文斯呢，他们就注意到这些，他们就要到中国来拍这些东西。
Kappa filmed the people of Wuhan struggling in their daily lives under the threat of Japanese air bombardment. He also took a picture of a train carpeted in a Nazi flag to prevent the Japanese Air Force from bombing the railway station. Another photo taken in Wuhan features the early spring of 1938 when there was a spring snowstorm. In it, people can see children cheerfully enjoying the sudden snowfall. In a time when Wuhan was still suffering from the ravages of war, this picture became one of Kappa's most joyful works. At a time when Kappa and Ivans were newcomers in Wuhan, they were ill-treated by their servants, despite Madame Chiang's orders that they be treated well. Ivans had to ask for assistance from his friends overseas to verify his importance as a director.
"他们原来的想法呢是拍摄几个重大的战役，因为他们都是像卡帕尔，尤其他是一种这种战地记者狂。 他是这个人非常棒的一个人，他是觉得他是哪儿有危险往哪儿去的，他觉得他的生命就是我怎么能够把这个最精彩的东西拍出来。可是实际上他们到中国落地以后呢，当时国共合作，临时政府在武汉，蒋介石呢他特别希望这些记者们能够将自己的这种形象呢传播出去，然后他可以得到国际上的援助。可是卡帕尔他们来了以后呢，就提出了要去看这看那，结果国民党政府都不让去。
This response made Kappa feel discontented. Hemingway once teased that Kappa could speak 7 languages but had learned only 1 Chinese sentence, no photos. At that time, other Chinese cities were witnessing rapid change. After occupying Nanjing, the Japanese troops tried to invade Suzhou from both the north and the south, and then they approached Wuhan. This picture was taken by Kappa in Chiang's command headquarters established in Hankou. Kappa and Ivans were given permission to attend a session of the Military Commission of the Kuomintang Authority, sessions that were not open to the general media.
在这个过程中呢，卡帕尔和伊文斯他们强烈建议以后呢，这样呢就把他们允许了他们去了一次这个苏州，然后从苏州沿运河呢到了这个台儿庄。 就是苏北，去拍过一次这个台儿庄战役。
Yes, it is true. We must endure the years of a hard war. That's why we must forget our old differences. Why should we fight one another? We must defend ourselves against aggression. We must unite. Then we can win.
The flag of the Chinese Republic. One-fifth of mankind.
In April April 1938, in Tai Zhuang, Chinese troops were engaged in a desperate fight against tens of thousands of Japanese soldiers. Kappa, Ivans, and their fellows were allowed to film at the front line in Suzhou. On the train bound for Suzhou, novelist Christopher Isherwood was a bundle of nerves and couldn't fall asleep. Kappa and the others, however, snored away calmly. Kappa later wrote about his approach to what he was doing. The war correspondent has his stake, his life, in his hands, and he can put it on this horse or that horse, or he can put it in his back pocket at the very last time. I'm a gambler. I decided to go in with E Company in the first wave. This group of pictures was taken by Kappa during the Battle of Tai Zhuang. Kappa was known to say, if your pictures aren't good enough, you aren't close enough. But in the end, they failed to get the pictures they wanted. At 6 a.m. on April 7, 1937, Kappa woke up and found that the Chinese had occupied Tai Zhuang. He was angry because General Tu wouldn't allow him to get too close to the battlefield, and as a result he missed recording Japan's first defeat in the era of visual documentation, and also missed scenes of China's first victory in this battle.
可是结果卡帕到那以后，发觉战争已经完了。卡帕去的时候又是一个战场的末尾，什么也没有，他就实际上拍了一些战场背后后续的一些事情。
When Kappa finally got there, he could only capture the last stages of the battle. An old lady in the debris shrieked when she saw the camera in Kappa's hands, thinking it to be some kind of cannon. Another old woman sitting beside a clod of earth and pieces of wood told Kappa that before the battle, this had been her home. Kappa documented them in the debris. In May 1938, just after the Battle of Tai Zhuang, this portrait of a Chinese soldier was published on the cover of the magazine Life. It was visual evidence of how tough-minded the Chinese were in their fight against the Japanese. At the same time, in the U.S., Ivan's film The 400 Million hit the screens.
那么这两个人相约一起来呢，到中国来呢，影像上的记录对中国的抗战可以说是产生了很大的作用。这种作用呢，不是对中国人的，主要的作用是让世界了解了中国的抗日。台庄的这一场胜仗，是对中国来说呢，是一个生死存亡的。 从整个的会战来说，中国是输了。但是呢，这个输我们不是一种投降式的、逃跑式的输，是抵抗式的输。在抵抗的当中呢，我们损失，但是日本人也损失。但全世界当大家都认为你必败的情况下，中国人通过台庄告诉了全世界，日本人消灭不了中国，而且中国人不会投降。
We buried the dead and rested in that city. For the building, the destruction, the suffering, and the hope of victory. Tai Zhuang is taken. The Chinese will march all night in the streets to celebrate their first victory.
后来伊文斯和卡帕尔他们提出来，他们希望去陕北。 去看中国抗日的另外的一部分力量，可是这是蒋介石这个犯了蒋介石最大的忌讳，他不会愿意宣传一支他本来要灭掉的一支力量。最后他结果就委托自己的夫人就宋美龄，就天天围着这个，就在这个武汉的八路军办事处，这帮人就陪着这帮人。
Kappa and his friends were not allowed to go outside of Wuhan, so they stayed in the city entertaining themselves while drinking martinis provided for them by Madame Chiang. Alex Kershaw gives an account of this in his book, Blood and Champagne, The Life and Times of Robert Capa. Capa apparently met Madame Chiang several times. On one occasion, he later told a friend he had to pour several of her cocktails into potted plants to stay sober. The reason why Capa had to keep himself sober-minded was that his professional sensitivity smelled the atmosphere of war.
结果后来卡帕尔呢，实际上后来觉得是一事无成，于是在这个1938年9月就离开。他是1938年2月份这个摄制组来到中国，所以卡帕尔在中国实际上待了7个月。
Later, Capa became renowned for his coverage of the Normandy landing. By then, he'd already cheated death many times on the battlefield, but in 1954, while attempting to get close enough to the fighting in Vietnam, he stepped on a landmine and was killed. When he died, he was still holding his camera. Capa had numerous love affairs. Film star Ingrid Bergman is said to have been one of his lovers. But when he died, the only photo he had on him was of his companion, Gerda Taro.
We are proud of the Lincoln Battalion and the fight for Madrid that it made.
我觉得卡帕尔在中国的这些照片是非常珍贵的。台儿庄这部分，虽然他是事后去的，但是他仍然还是让我们依稀可以看到那场战争的惨烈的这种景象。再有一个呢，我觉得他拍了很多这八路军办事处的这些，他是起码在我们这个中国的现代政治史上，还是非常珍贵的镜头。那些政治人物，比如说我们看博古啊、周恩来啊、叶剑英啊，这些人都是蛮有意思的。
Although Capa's wish to go to Yan'an was never fulfilled, later a group of Americans would come here to take a large number of valuable pictures. Who took this well-known photo of Chairman Mao? How did Edgar Snow come to write Red Star over China? These portraits of communist leaders were taken by U.S. journalist Harrison Foreman. Join us for part 8 of Zoetrope, China in the Eyes of Foreign Photographers. This is Chiang Kai-shek on the cover of an edition of the U.S. magazine Time. Between 1927 and 1945, Chiang appeared on the cover of Time no less than 7 times. The person who orchestrated Chiang's front-page appearances was the founder of Time magazine, Henry Luce.
卢斯呢，这个人呢，他是出生在中国的山东，他的父亲呢是一个传教士，那么他在山东长到14岁呢，才到美国去，后来上了很有名的耶鲁大学。
1923年的时候，美国人亨利·鲁斯和他在耶鲁大学的校友哈登2个人创办了就我们现在非常熟悉的《时代周刊》Times。他们创刊的宗旨就是要把新闻传播出去。
Because of Henry Luce, the viewpoint of the U.S. media was greatly influenced by his perspectives and values, and he had strong opinions with regard to China. In the early days of the War of Resistance against Japanese aggression, Luce lobbied the U.S. administration to enter the war. It was his view that the U.S. needed to help China develop and be able to shoulder its responsibilities in international affairs and the upholding of justice.
鲁斯很同情中国，也很支持中国，他很支持蒋介石的国民政府，所以在《时代周刊》上，蒋介石出现的次数非常多。
他是一个传教士的孩子，他从某一个方面来说，他代表着一种美国人的意识形态。他们觉得人的一个可能性，通过这个传教，通过说教，通过个人的努力，能够创造一定的这个美国。他支持蒋介石，因为蒋介石宋美龄是教徒。
Luce eulogized Chiang while voicing his disapproval of Mao Zedong, the head of the Communist Party and Chiang's opponent. An article clearly showed how he used his publications to support Chiang. Time magazine's bias was particularly evident in its news reporting on prominent figures. Time went to great lengths to present Chiang as a strong figure while describing Mao Zedong as a stooge of international communism. Under Henry Luce, Time hardly ever made mention of the political influence of the Communist Party. At that time, the Communist Party of China was also becoming aware of the importance of publicity. As early as 1936, Sun Qing-ling, the wife of Sun Yat-sen, received a letter from Mao Zedong and Zhou Enlai asking her to find a foreign journalist who would come and report on the communist-controlled area in Shanxi. Sun Qing-ling eventually settled on Edgar Snow, an American who'd been living in China for 7 years. Snow, who'd worked for several newspapers, leaned to the left, and while teaching students in Beijing, he developed a genuine interest in the Communist Party of China.
埃德加·斯诺啊，1928年就曾经来过中国。他来过中国以后，前后他就在中国生活了13年。并且在中国结的婚。1936年呢，是他第一次到延安采访。斯诺是第一个被允许进入延安的西方新闻记者。
In the summer of 1936, as Snow made his way to Yan'an, he started work on the book that would become famous as Red Star Over China. He also took a photo of Mao Zedong. After the picture was published by the U.S. newspaper Millard's Review in November 1936, it went on to become well known across the world.
36年，斯诺进入了保安。有一天在窑洞门口啊，看到了这个毛泽东是精神很好，斯诺就是想为毛泽东拍一张好的照片。但是呢，毛泽东当时没有戴帽子。这是身边啊，这个马海德就灵机一动，把斯诺头上戴的一顶帽子就戴到了毛泽东的头上，啊，这个斯诺就瞬间给毛泽东照了这样一张照片。
In the spring of 1937, Helen Snow, the wife of Edgar Snow, made her way to Yan'an. When she finally met Mao Zedong, she took out the now classic photo taken by her husband and remarked upon it. Helen Snow said when she escaped by leaping out of a window in Xi'an, she only had 2 things with her: the photo taken by her husband, which could also serve as a recommendation letter, and her lipstick, a vital accessory for any young woman. In Yan'an, Helen Snow met generals of the Chinese Red Army whom she'd long admired. These are pictures of her in Yan'an. The Snows were the first foreign journalists to become acquainted with the Chinese Red Army. Years later, the hat worn by Mao in this famous picture would be designated an historical relic. "1937 saw the beginning of the War of Resistance against Japanese aggression, followed by a period of cooperation between the Kuomintang and the Communist Party of China. After Edgar Snow, the Kuomintang seldom allowed foreign journalists to visit Yan'an. The American journalist Harrison Foreman commented on this situation. "Over the past 5 years, the Kuomintang authorities have forbidden any journalist to visit Yan'an. We submitted several applications requesting permission to visit the area controlled by the Communist Party, but all our applications were indirectly refused. Our journalists received such replies as, 'It's not convenient, the matter's uncertain.'" In the summer of 1944, however, this restriction was broken by a team of journalists. After the Japanese attack on Pearl Harbor in December 1941, the U.S. entered the war against Japan. The U.S. began to send war materials to all parties fighting against the Japanese, including those of the Chinese Communist Party.
那个时候的八路军呢，已经是正规军，主力部队八路军已经有40多万。吃了他们的报道，包括他的夫人，包括白求恩在中国一边做医生一边发点新闻报道，发点照片回去，那么使得全世界呢对中共的抗战非常积极有了解，但是主要是了解这支共产党军队。 世界上有一支除了苏联以外，还有这么一支共产党军队。
In July 1944, the U.S. sent a team of observers to Yan'an. At the same time, another team of journalists from China and abroad were also permitted to visit Yan'an. This is a group photo of 6 of the foreign journalists in the team with Mao Zedong. Of the 6 foreign journalists, American journalist Harrison Foreman had a much earlier connection with the Chinese Communist Party. Foreman came to Yan'an in 1936. He took his group of photos of Chinese Red Army troops around that time. The uniforms seemed quite different from the image many people have in their minds. China's Communist Army was able to deploy artillery, cavalry, and bicycle units. In the summer of 1944, Foreman entered the revolutionary base again. By that time, the Chinese Red Army had been renamed the 8th Route Army. Foreman visited Yan'an and conducted interviews in the resistance base in northern China. While there, he wrote Report from Red China and shot a huge number of pictures. These pictures covered the whole spectrum of border life. Foreman had graduated from the University of Wisconsin, majoring in Oriental languages. During his trip to China in 1930, he visited Tibet in search of the Shangri-La described in James Hilton's popular novel, Lost Horizon. Later, Foreman toured the globe as an explorer, photographer, and war journalist. In 1940, he was appointed China correspondent by both the New York Times and the Times of London. Foreman has been called a modern Marco Polo, and not without reason. During China's war of resistance against Japanese aggression, he focused his camera on many battle scenes in China. In Yan'an, he focused his lens on the legendary head of the Chinese Communist Party, Mao Zedong. This group of pictures of Mao Zedong was taken by Foreman. The legendary head is dignified, kindly, and somewhat shy.
在当时的社会背景下，这是对人很有冲击力的，因为那个时候社会不缺那种豪华，不缺少那种风度翩翩，不缺少我们现在追求那种东西，缺的是就是说你能够一西装革履，但你还是能够跟老百姓一样，缺的是那个东西。
Zhou Enlai always has a courteous smile in Foreman's pictures. Foreman took pictures of other generals such as Zhu De, Peng Dehuai, Lin Biao, and Chen Yi. In July 1944, Foreman and these Chinese generals in Yan'an received the group of observers dispatched by the U.S. Army.
中国抗战结束以前，蒋介石有很多次就是威胁美国，实际上是假的，我要投降了，暗示他，迫使美国人加强进攻。那么美国人考察中国，又要把共产党的军队作为一个很重要的元素来研究的话，实际上呢，这是美国人在跟蒋介石斗智斗勇。
In this picture taken by Foreman, Colonel Barrett and his colleagues received a warm welcome from the leaders of the Chinese Communist Party. In this picture, Americans and Chinese are seen exchanging toasts. American scholar Carol J. Carter later gave an account of Yan'an people warmly entertaining U.S. privates with tiger bone liquor. Another sort of wine that the men in Yan'an tried was tiger bone. It was supposedly made by soaking real tiger bones in pecan to give the drinker the strength, courage, and fierceness of the beast. This picture shows young people in the border region learning dance, a pastime that was popular in Yan'an at the time. Foreman described this in his report from Red China. On any evening, you might see bushy-haired, shirt-sleeved Mao Zedong having a grand time dancing a fast one-step with a cute co-ed from Yan'an, while a truck driver might be swinging buxom Madame Chu Te. Roly-poly Chu Te himself, commander-in-chief of over 500,000 Jap killers, was having the time of his life dancing with a bright young thing 1/2 his size and 1/3 his age. After their visit to Yan'an, Foreman and a number of other foreign journalists went to the front line in northern China, from where they were able to get a feel for the fighting, as the Japanese were losing ground at the time and subjected to frequent attacks from both the army and civilians. These photos taken by Foreman are of 8th Route Army soldiers holding captured Japanese supplies. This one shows a Japanese prisoner of war. This poster boasts of the welcoming treatment given to Japanese prisoners at the Workers' and Peasants' School in Yan'an. On the front line in northern China, Foreman focused his camera on the determined local militias who also fought against the Japanese. The Junior Pioneers on Parade, a local militia unit armed with homemade cannons and a grenade being placed to booby-trap a doorway. Foreman described in his report from Red China. Moreover, over 2 million people's militia were organized to harass the Japanese and to cooperate with the Paluchun regulars and guerrilla forces in their hit-and-run operations. Foreman published his report from Red China when he returned to his homeland. At around the same time, the U.S. Army Observation Group sent its report back to the U.S., and it included positive comments on the Communist Party. Carroll J. Carter gave an account of the Chinese Communist Party in his book, Mission to Yan'an, American Liaison with the Chinese Communist Party. In July 1945, General Ye gave a farewell luncheon for several of the men who were leaving the mission. After a few drinks of White Lightning, Ye began criticizing the mission against Japanese fascism while continuing to support Chinese fascism. The reference to Chinese fascism was, of course, a reference to Chiang Kai-shek. After Japan surrendered in August 1945, peace did not last long between the Communist Party and the Kuomintang.
美国人把这个二战结束以后的那些物资全部给中国，包括武器，全部给中国。日本人的武器，他的武器。那么至于送给中国，中国你是共产党拿还是国民党拿，这跟美国人没关系的。美国是给你中国政府的，美国呢他也提出要国民党分点给你们共产党，但这句话不上台面的。 因为这是内政问题了，美国人不好干涉的。
After China came out of the Japanese War, the American media was divided as to the direction in which China was heading. Henry Luce issued a directive that would ensure his magazine published a portrait of Chiang Kai-shek on its cover. Theodore Harold White, a China correspondent, held very different opinions. If Time showed unconditional support for Chiang Kai-shek, we'd be failing to fulfill our duty to millions of American readers. U.S. Representative Michael J. Mansfield wrote to President Truman. General Chiang Kai-shek doesn't trust the Communist Party and thinks it'll seek to replace the Kuomintang if left unchecked. Neither the U.S. nor the Soviet Union wanted to see China launch a civil war. During the Chongqing negotiations, Patrick Hurley, the then U.S. ambassador to China, acted as a go-between for the Kuomintang and the Communist Party. He went to Yan'an to meet Mao Zedong in person and then accompanied him from Yan'an to Chongqing.
在这个过程当中，也恰恰是蒋介石最失去民心的时候，转折点。因为美国人来调和了，就美国人都出面来帮我们来谈，叫你们别打了，是吧？最后打起来了，那主要责任肯定是在你政府了。
These photos of Hurley, Mao Zedong, and Chiang Kai-shek were taken by Jack Wilkes, a journalist with the U.S. magazine Life. On the surface, the figures in this picture seem relaxed, but in reality, the photos record the final separation of the two parties. These pictures taken by Foreman document a military mediation meeting between representatives from the U.S., the Kuomintang, and the Communist Party. The Communist Party representative is Ye Jianying. The Kuomintang representative is a general surnamed Tsai. The man in the middle is the American. In another picture, Ye is shaking hands with the U.S. representative, while General Tsai seems disheartened. These pictures record General Marshall's attempts to mediate in the conflict between the two parties in China at the time. Another American journalist recorded the dramatic moments when the American mediators withdrew from China. This picture records how the wife of an American soldier went on a shopping spree before she departed. The stall owner is recommending a porcelain jar made during the reign of Qing Dynasty Emperor Kangxi. At the same time, in northern Shanxi, the last American soldiers were withdrawing from Yan'an. Shortly afterwards, Hu Zongnan's army under the Kuomintang began bombarding Yan'an. In 1949, French photographer Henri Cartier-Bresson came to China and recorded a decisive moment during a time of regime change. 10 years later, he visited China again. French photographer Marc Raboud visited China more than 20 times. Why was he so fascinated by China? Please join us for part 9 of Zoetrope, China in the Eyes of Foreign Photographers.